folks, and welcome to the weekend warm-up from the beautiful Algarve circuit here in Portimao. Will Buxton with you as always, joined as ever by Lawrence Barretto. And Mr. David Alorka, chaps, it's wonderful to be back, isn't it?
It's a glorious location for a motor race. I love the hills in the background. It's a great track to run. I know you don't want to run it, Will.
No.
But the weather's beautiful. It's much warmer than Imola, so I'm delighted.
I don't want to run it because it's hilly.
It is indeed. I was out there doing some social pieces on F1's Instagram channel, so it is very hilly. It's quite like a roller coaster. The word for today across all media is undulating, isn't it?
It is undulating. We did a track walk with Danny Fiat. He says it's intimidating. Blind crests, blind corners, and of course not a lot of runoff as well. It's a track that punishes.
It's a proper racetrack, so just like what we've had at Imola, and I think that's what the drivers love about it. They get punished if they push too hard.
They do indeed. News to bring you in the sort of intervening period between Imola and here is that the heavily anticipated and much debated sprint race qualifying will be coming to 3 races this year. First one will be Silverstone. All the drivers have had their say about it today. What's the general vibe amongst the drivers you spoke to, David?
So the general vibe from the drivers is that they're happy that Formula One is trying something new. They're happy to step into it and give it their all. And they're happy about the fact that it's good for the fans. Fans have a bit more excitement going into the weekend. There's something to fight for and play for on every single race day.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
And every driver wants to race, they don't want to do practice. So from that point of view, there's less practice, there's more racing. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. And as we said, great that Formula One is at least trying something rather than just looking at an option and going, well, we don't like that, let's not do it for whatever reason. They're actually going to trial it, and we haven't had that before. So good to see the trial, good to see how it all shapes out, and as we roll into 2022. When we look back, though, a couple of weeks to Imola, it was a fantastic race weekend. David, Max Verstappen taking the win, but not quite the World Championship lead.
Listen, that's just the way you'd like for Formula One to start. Both sessions out in Bahrain as well as out in Imola, as you mentioned, were full of excitement, full of jeopardy, and that's exactly what the fans would like to see. Very, very close racing and a very, very, very close championship so far.
Yeah, but it was an interesting round in Imola. The red flag, the rain, we kind of had it all.
And that's why it's too early to tell really who's ahead, Mercedes or Red Bull, because I think that race with the rain, you can't really have a drive performance comparison. We're going to come here to a proper racetrack, we should get another kind of inkling. That's why you've got Christian Horner, you've got Toto Wolff saying, you're the favourite, no, I'm the favourite. They want to wait 4 or 5 races before they make a proper guess.
Now, we're down here at Williams because, of course, the incident that brought out that red flag in Imola was between the Williams of George Russell and the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. A lot of tempers frayed at the time, a lot of pointing, a lot of gesticulating, a lot of comments made in the immediate aftermath. Toto Wolff on the post-race show, I think making it obvious he wanted to talk to both drivers. He did. George apologised. Both drivers were on track today speaking to the press. They spoke to you guys, I think, both of you earlier, and let's hear what they had to say.
Sunday evening we shook hands and we moved on. You know, we're both racers, we've both been in that position before. Not the first time, it definitely won't be the last time. So what happens on track is one thing, but we're all blokes and we just move on.
I think that's done and dusted. There's nothing more to talk about it, and full focus ahead.
Interesting comments then from both George and Valtteri. I know that George has said, certainly in the press, he's going to change the way he races. Do we feel he needs to?
I think he feels that he needs to. He's obviously had a chat to Mercedes, he's had a chat to his team at Williams, and I think he probably will change the approach he goes racing. But when he sees a gap, he's still going to go for a gap.
Even if that gap is by a Mercedes?
I think that he probably is going to do it. He'll just try and keep it a bit neater and a bit tidier.
Do you think he's been promised a seat next year if he just hangs off a little bit and doesn't give Valtteri too hard a time?
No, I don't. I don't buy into that, no.
Okay.
But then I've been wrong many a time, Will. So
you chatted to Latifi earlier today as well. How is he feeling?
Well, firstly, he's disappointed that he won't get to race in his home race for the 2nd successive year now at the
Aren't we all
cancellation
gutted
of the
not to be
Canadian
going to
Grand Prix.
Montreal?
Gutted to go there. Such a great race, great city. But he's also just trying to put Imola behind him, really. That was a really tough weekend for him. Great in qualifying. All downhill in the race.
He's finally cracked qualifying, hasn't he?
Exactly, and I think he is taking some confidence from that. And you can really tell that he feels that if he can get some momentum going, he's going to be in a good place.
Callum Ilott over there will be doing FP1 for Alfa Romeo this weekend. We'll come to that in a minute because we wanted to talk about Haas first, but just wanted to show you Callum, who is here. Love Callum. Haas, the boys, Nikita and Mick Schumacher this weekend. We know that all these races are going to be hard for them. A learning period again for them in Imola, but some strong lessons.
Yeah, and I think what is really encouraging is they're both accepting the situation. They're not letting it get to them. They accept that they're going to be at the back of the field. They're trying to do the best that they can with what they've got. Nikita really is talking about wanting to focus on himself more than the car. So that's quite a mature approach because he's got a lot of work to do. I think for Mick, he's just got to keep building up slowly. He's got a mature head on his shoulders.
Head on his head. Now, we'd already seen Callum walking into Alfa Romeo, announced as reserve driver just a couple of days ago. We'll be doing FP1 in Giovinazzi's car. You spoke to Kimi?
Yes, I did, yeah.
And how was Kimi?
Oh, a man of many words, as I'm sure you would expect.
Yes.
Actually, in quite a good mood, given, obviously, he had the points taken away from him in Imola. But he's got a car that he can compete with this year, and I think that's what's exciting him.
And this is the thing, so I spoke to Giovinazzi, and it's exactly the same thing with Antonio. He was in a points-paying position until he had to take that late pit stop for the brake issue at the back of the car. But they know, even if they can't get it hooked up in qualifying, come race day, they've actually probably got a better car underneath them, certainly than Alpine, possibly than Aston Martin as well. If it all goes their way, they could be firing into the points.
And it's remarkable considering they were battling with Williams for the worst spot last year, and the regs haven't changed all that much over the year. They've done a great job over there, and I think you're right, it's that fringes of the top 10. I think they can be challenging for points.
Yeah, we'll come to that a little bit later, particularly in terms of Alpine and Aston Martin and just how tight and close they are to actually making it into the top 10 as well. But yeah, really good feeling actually about Alfa Romeo. They're one of those teams that if it all comes right for them, can be doing really well. But talking about a team getting it all right, these are the guys that need to get it all right.
Well, you spoke to both of them today. I know that when he was talking in the FIA presser, he was talking about how he just needs a clean race.
Yeah, this is it. But so does Pierre. As Pierre stated, he's been qualifying brilliantly this year. It's just Sunday that they need to pull it all together. Had they maximised their Sundays this season, they reckon there's a potential they could have done what Lando did last time out in Imola. They know they've got a great car underneath them. They've said they're not going to change their focus for this year, though. They know they need to switch attention to 2022 early in order to make the most of those new regulations. But they've got a car here that can fight for 5th in the Constructors' Championship. Yeah,
Franz Tost has been talking for years, hasn't he, about being top 5 of the Constructors. And everyone's kind of laughed at him a little bit because it's been so competitive. They've got a car this year that can actually nail it. And 2 drivers who they make the most of it can actually deliver on that.
This is it. Pierre Gasly, of course, finished 5th here last year. He's qualified 5th for the opening rounds of the World Championship. He thinks he can have a strong result here. Again, if the Sunday goes his way. For Yuki Tsunoda, massively exciting young guy, just lets the occasion get to him a little bit. I spoke to him earlier today. You're going to hear from him now. He knows he just has to keep it all inside, and that perhaps he's pushing just a little bit too hard, a little bit too soon.
Expectation was really high, so that's why I was putting my pressure by myself, and that tends to a little bit to pushing a little bit too hard, and I think had to a little bit more back it off, and had to really focus to the situation. Like for example Q1, I shouldn't do that pushing too much entry in the Q1. It was really stupid that I was pushing too hard in Q3 second set of new tires. So I had to really also think about the situation, and But like I say, just every time it's learning, and hopefully it's going to be better in the Portugal.
Talking about those teams wanting to get into the top 10, but maybe not necessarily having a car on merit, Aston Martin and Alpine. And it's not the season that Aston Martin were expecting, David.
No, not at all. They were expecting to finish 3rd this season. They were expected to be in there just underneath the top 2 cars. But speaking to Sebastian earlier on today, he was talking about the fact that they now need to readjust their expectations for the season, given the fact that it's going to take him a lot more time than he initially expected to get used to this car.
Lance Stroll is doing great guns at the team at the moment. He lost a place because the stewards looked into him passing off track at the last race. But I think being able to pull out points in a car which, as we've said, beneath the Mercedes, the Red Bull, the McLaren, the Ferrari and the AlphaTauri, 5 teams, 10 places, that's your points done. The fact he's able to score points in that car shows what a great job he's doing. Both Alpines last time out also scoring points. slightly fortuitously, it must be said, given the penalty to Kimi Raikkonen.
Listen, you take him. You take him.
Absolutely.
You take him any way they come.
Absolutely. I spoke to Esteban Ocon earlier today. Apparently, I spoke to Fernando Alonso too, although... Yes, we do multiple takes on this when we mess it up, and I did because I completely forgot I'd spoken to Fernando. But Esteban is feeling pretty good in the car right now. They both know there's more to come from themselves. They're not sure there's that much to come from the car. They're in a really difficult spot with it, and I think they know, that the whole team knows, this season's going to be a challenge for them.
Absolutely. I, as well as a whole host of fans, are looking forward to when Fernando finally gets to grips with this car. We can't wait to see that bite out of Fernando, and I'm sure it will come.
It will. It has to. We hope it will. And Fernando is obviously looking forward to that, and the team they're in a very, very good sort of, I think they're in a good place in terms of their knowledge base, because they're so experienced. They've been around the mill a number of times, and as Esteban said today, that's helping them draw the most out of these situations. They know they don't have a top 10 car, and yet with both of them in the points, that comes down to experience. That comes down to the team using its brain and getting them into those positions.
It is indeed. The thing is, from most of these teams that have drivers that are new in that seat, they're gaining a lot of confidence from the fact that the most experienced driver is scoring points and is performing greatly. So it allows them to know that, you know, they believe already in their own prowess.
Yep.
So they know they're able, they're capable. They know that it's just a matter of time till the pieces come together, and we see great things from them.
Well, you talk about drivers needing to settle into their new homes and the already established driver doing the better job. Obviously down here at Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is the more established driver, the one who's got the confidence coming into the season. But out of all the drivers who have changed up this season, Carlos Sainz already by far the most at home.
Yes, listen, last time out, you know, at qualifying, you saw that he was quite disappointed with that, but he is known to be a Sunday driver. He sometimes calls himself that as well, and he showed that fantastically last time out in Imola. It was a special, incredible race run by him, and like you said, he is the one that's doing it better than any other person that has changed seats so far.
Let's not forget, Carlos Sainz is used to changing teams. He's done it a number of times in his Formula One career. David talked to him earlier. Let's hear from him.
Probably I'm a bit closer in the race than what I am in qualifying, but I believe it's a matter of time. I'm very calm about it. I'm integrated in the team. I start to know what the car is doing, and just by having more laps, different circuits, probably a bit of a back-to-back weekend here with Spain will help to get a bit in the rhythm of the car and everything. So patience, and it will come.
Carlos Sainz there, who of course moved from McLaren to Ferrari. McLaren, are they punching above where they expected to be, or are they right on song?
I think they certainly are above where they thought they were going to be at this point of the year. They had that Mercedes power unit change, a massive thing for a Formula One team to do, especially when the regulations don't limit that many changes to the car.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think they're delivering exactly where we expect them to do with the package that they've got.
It's funny, isn't it? Because during testing, we were expecting them to have had a good... We all thought they'd had a good winter. Mm-hmm. We all said, hey, this might be the third best team coming out of testing. They were like, no, playing down expectations. But here we are. Lando's had a podium already this season. They look like they've got the measure of Ferrari in the races. Yeah. What were the drivers saying?
So Lando's really trying to keep a lid on it at the moment because he doesn't want to get carried away with how well it's going.
Yeah.
He obviously had a really strong start last year, but there's something different about him this year. I think he's definitely more mature. He's evidently more experienced, but the way that he deals with things, just like that mistake in qualifying, forgot about it instantly and delivered a cracking race. And I think that's really going to stand him in good stead. He is desperate to get ahead of Daniel before he figures out that car.
Yes.
So he can stamp his authority on that team.
And what about Daniel, because it is taking him a little while to get to grips with this car? Is it still confidence on the brakes?
Yeah, it's definitely confidence on the brakes, but just generally learning how this car works. He was saying that he'd been talking to the team a lot about looking at the data and seeing where he's struggling, and they're saying, well, you know, you might just need to drive the car slightly differently to the way that you drove it at Renault and Red Bull, and he just needs to learn that, and that's more time in the car.
This is it, isn't it? It's about relearning what you've learned or unlearning what you've learned. It's why the Sebs, the Fernandos, perhaps the more experienced drivers are struggling a little bit, whereas the lesser experienced drivers who have less to unlearn have less to relearn and couldn't therefore learn.
There's a lot of learning involved there, but you're right, and I think that it is harder to unlearn stuff, isn't it? I think, and when you're in a way or you're in a kind of a route or a direction, that's the way you want to go, and that's difficult. I've got lost there.
That's all right. Another driver having to unlearn, relearn, learn all the time. Sergio Perez down here at Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, so he was in a really good mood today. I think kind of remembering how strong he was in qualifying and accepting that Sunday wasn't his day, that he made mistakes. He knows that it was his fault rather than the team's fault, and he's come here, put that behind him, and he knows that he's got a really strong car in his hands, and he knows that that car, if he makes the most of it, could get consistent podiums, but more wins.
But it does show that this car is still a difficult car to drive. Sergio's no idiot. He's been around this sport a long time. To watch him struggle in the Grand Prix like that, evidence for a lot of people how really on the line that car is.
Definitely, and I think that probably says a few nice things about Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, that they struggled too, but that doesn't mean they're bad racing drivers as we compare them to Checo. I think he's starting to get on top of it though.
We were just talking about
boots.
you. Good things, bad things? Good things. No, he's doing a cracking job, and when it clicks for him, like it did in quali, it's all going to come good. We're going to talk though to Max Verstappen, the team and Max making big noises, of course, about them arriving here on a track which should potentially suit them. Will they be leaving here with the World Championship lead?
I think as a team we made the right calls as well with the pit stops. And basically, for most of it, we stayed out of trouble. A few little hairy moments, but overall, yeah, of course, very happy with that result. Yeah, to be honest, we have a good car, but like I said, it's very close. So it's very hard to say who is favourite, because in terms of lap times, when you look throughout the whole race, we're always very closely matched, and you can't do that if your car is not as good. So I'm just looking forward again. Lewis is a great driver, and I think it's exciting for the fans. So I think all in all, that just makes it great.
Fascinating stuff from Max Verstappen. Now we finish, of course, at Mercedes. You spoke to one of the drivers each. David, what's Lewis saying?
Hey, listen, Lewis is saying that the Red Bulls are inevitably favourites this season. He didn't even just say they're favourites for this race. He said they're favourites all the way through.
But Red Bull is saying that's just tactics. You're putting that on us so that we have the pressure. You saying that we're the favourites puts the pressure on us. But are they the favourites?
No one wants that tag, do they? No one wants to be the favourite. Valtteri was playing his card slightly closer to his chest. He was just saying we need to wait a few more races before we say. But I do think they feel they're closer to Red Bull actually in race pace coming into this weekend.
This is it, quali performance. We're looking at what, 4/10 possibly, the advantage that Red Bull have. But
well,
over
if you
the
listen
race
to
pace,
Toto, yeah, 4/10.
Well, if you listen to Toto, yeah, exactly. But if you're looking at race pace, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think the Mercedes have always had a really strong race car, so we shouldn't be surprised that they're able to close that gap. The surprise is in qualifying, because normally they can turn their engine up and be there. In reality, I think it's a couple of tenths.
Fascinating stuff, guys. Right, shall we come round to our predictions for the weekend? Usually something wild. What have you got for me?
I'm still going for a Red Bull 1-2.
Oh, nice. David?
Okay. Listen, I'm saying the McLaren's going to be up there in the mix on the podium again.
Oh, okay. I'm going for a Gasly podium.
Oh, you love a Gasly podium.
P5 last year in a car that wasn't anywhere near as competitive as this year's. When AlphaTauri get their weekends hooked up, he's on the podium. Guarantee.
Mr. AlphaTauri.
I hope you haven't jinxed it.
It's not a
again,
guarantee. Choo choo, all aboard. Right, that's a lot, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the weekend warm up. From Lawrence, from David, from me, from all of us here in Portimao. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you next time.